Cześć, it's Michalina from Coffee That Gives a Pug. Perhaps some of you have already seen one of my recent videos that I posted on Instagram, recent reels, where I didn't quite enjoy the coffee that I made myself with this. Firstly, for those who have never seen this equipment before, this is the coffee brewing equipment most often called Cezve or ibryk. For the world of specialty coffee, it is just being rediscovered. However, it is a very old way of coffee preparation. It originated in Arabia and it is very widely used over there and in Balkanian countries, and most commonly it is referred to as the Turkish or Greek coffee. For me, it is relatively new meated. I knew that it exists, but I never get a chance to actually use it. But once I started discovering it and go deep into the science of it, I started to ask myself question, what took you so long, Michalina? So I am making this video for several reasons. Firstly, I was asked to provide you with the video about this brewing technique. As I am a very nice person, I was always going to do it. I just needed some time to do my research, to do some experiments, to be able to provide you with the best information I possibly can. Secondly, last weekend, Polish Cezve Championships were organized, and how surprised I was that for the competition, only 5 people signed up to participate. 5 people for how many? 40 million of people living in Poland. Moreover, in New Zealand, competitions like this are not even organized at all. For me, these are the indicators of very little fashion for Cezve coffee. So hopefully by showing you how easy this technique actually is, more and more people will turn their interest into it, as it's awesome. And lastly, I am afraid that the video that I mentioned before that I posted on Instagram could unintentionally create the image of me not actually enjoying the Cezve coffee, and that is not true. So by doing this episode, I want to officially spread my good opinion about Cezve and to enhance the importance of the good quality beans that you use. Let's go! There is a big chance that you've already came across Cezve coffee made in sand. There are many videos on YouTube. There is a big chance you've seen some of this, or maybe you traveled in those countries. It is very old, however, very interesting way of using sand to heat the entire equipment up. And as much as I would love to present you the Cezve brewing method with the sand as a source of heat, I had to compromise with the gas burner, but it's equally good. The consistency of the flame provides us with the consistency and the level of the temperature more than if we used, for example, an induction. It also allows for better coffee and water mixture circulation during the process of extraction. Recommended ratio of how much coffee and how much water you need to use is 1 to 10. So for every 1 gram of coffee, you would use 10 grams of water. Notice that this is slightly different to the recommended Specialty Coffee Association ratio when it comes to most of the brewing coffee methods. Do you remember what is the Specialty Coffee Association ratio? I had a pleasure to use bigger than the standard one Cezve. Standard one usually is made for like a single portion, so it fits around 7 grams of coffee and 70 grams of water. With my one, I could play with the amount a little bit, so I've used 14 grams of coffee over 140 grams of water. The biggest challenge with this method seems to be the risk of over-extracting the coffee. That comes from several reasons. First one, the grind size. Cezve is designed to brew coffee very quickly by fully submerging the coffee into the water without further filtration. In order to achieve the desirable result in our cup, our coffee beans should be ground very fine, almost like into a powder. It would be definitely finer that you would do for preparing yourself a shot of espresso. That way the coffee will be extracted fast enough. Remember though, there won't be any filtration further in the process, so we will be drinking the coffee with the grounds in it. Having the beans ground very finely allows the coffee sediment to travel all the way to the bottom of the cup, instead of having some particles of coffee floating in the water or on the surface of the coffee and leaving us with a rather unpleasant experience of drinking the coffee and also chewing some part of it at the same time. The benefits of having your coffee ground very fine can be turned into a disadvantage though very quickly. If we ground coffee too fine, we might end up having our coffee very dusty, almost like muddy. The finer the coffee is, the quicker it extracts, and so if you grind it too fine, you might end up having your coffee tasting too bitter. Second, the roast profile. This is something very much correlated to the grind size, as if we don't pay attention to it, we might achieve the same results. Our coffee might taste too bitter. The darker the roast profile, the faster the coffee is opening for the extraction. There is a chance for our coffee to become over-extracted again, so it's worth remembering when it comes to checking and controlling our time of extraction. And the third one, agitation. The only moment that you stir your coffee with water is the very beginning of the process of your preparation for the extraction. To make sure that all the coffee is combined nicely with water and it is in contact with water, I recommend to stir your coffee around 15 times. The fine grind, if you turn your coffee into almost a powder, can create a lot of lumps. When coffee is so compacted together and it creates like a little balls of coffee in your beverage, the water will struggle to go into the middle of that lump. So some parts of coffee won't be fully extracted, and that leads to unbalanced extraction. So it is recommended to mix the coffee at the very first step of your coffee preparation. However, any more movements further in the process, especially when the coffee is already subjected to high temperature, will only increase the chance of our coffee becoming again bitter and over-extracted. Traditionally, any bitterness of that coffee was balanced out by adding some spices like cardamom or cinnamon or sugar to the beverage. It was all mixed together, they were sort of cooking, extracting together in the Cezve to mimic the disadvantages of not being able to control all the little steps along the way. Back in the days though, the science of roasting the coffee and coffee preparation was not as common and understood as it is today. Today we know that coffee can taste equally good just on its own. As a humble advocate of specialty coffee, I recommend to reach out to your local specialty coffee roasteries and buy some coffee beans off them. That way you can discover natural characteristics of the coffee, and it can be sweet and fruity and chocolatey depending on the natural predispositions of that coffee. Using Cezve can be a great way of connecting with the traditional very first methods of making the coffee. However, with modern approach of preparing the coffee with care and attention to details, we can also connect to the source of that coffee, to the region where it came from, and with the people behind that coffee preparations. There is simply no need to mask that with any spices of sugar. And today I was using the Colombian coffee that was processed in carbonic maceration way. It is a light roast and I'm expecting it to be amazing. Okay, let's brew this thing. So this water was heated up. It was sitting at 65 degrees Celsius, and it's not necessary to heat the water up. You can use the cold water too. Although I do prefer heating the water up, as I find this way being a better tool to control my extraction. Also, to make the coffee tasting the same, very similar, each time I prepare it.
Oh yeah!
Because consistency rules. Having my Cezve sitting on top of very steady, medium to low sort of heat that is not coming to the outside of the Cezve lets my coffee brew in very steady way, in very gradual way as well. In about 1 minute, I am expecting the surface of that coffee to change. Very characteristic for Cezve brewing metered foam will start to appear. First, it just sort of travel from the sides of the walls of the Cezve into the middle of the coffee surface. At some stage, that stage being when the water temperature reaches around 90 degrees, also in roughly 2 minutes time, that foam will start to rise up. When it comes very close to the rim of the Cezve, I'm gonna take it off the heat and transfer it into the cup straight away. Now I know what you are thinking right now. If you happened to see the traditional way of making the coffee with the help of Cezve, you probably think that I shouldn't have stopped the extraction yet. I should have let the foam to rise up and then take it off the heat for a few seconds for the foam to go back down to the Cezve, put it back on the source of heat, let the foam rise up and repeat the procedure 3 times. The modern way of preparing the coffee with ibryk equipment stands for not letting the coffee to practically boil for 3 times. That is what is happening when you stick to the traditional way. The coffee might be simply burnt as the liquid temperature goes way above 92, 94 degrees Celsius, and that is the recommended temperature level to be able to achieve most balanced cup of coffee. Again, we don't want any bitterness in the cup, and rising the temperature in the Cezve will only lead to potential over-extraction. It is still very hot though, definitely nothing you want to drink straight away. You do want that foam that was created. It works very similar to how the crema and espresso works, so give yourself around 5 minutes to cool the coffee down and also for the sediment to travel down to the bottom of the cup. You don't want to burn yourself, you actually want to taste what you've just made, so wait. That coffee not only tastes great to me, balanced acidity, nose of grapes and red wine, the texture is pleasantly heavy, but it does also remind me the coffee that I remember from preparing in Poland. I don't know if we can call it traditional Polish way. I guess we can. It is differently prepared, but have very similar results. Very finely ground coffee would be just added to the mug, then hot water would be poured over it. You would just let the coffee to brew for several minutes, and then you would just stir the whole thing for all the coffee grounds to go to the bottom, and that's it. Good old Bażucha. It helped me survive my toughest mornings when I was young. Anyway, it's easy. Turkish / Arabic / Greek / Mediterranean coffee is not as scary as it might seem. You just need good quality beans. So you do it and you will love it. If you have any further question about the Cezve or really any other coffee related subject, leave the comment in the comment sections. If you have a bigger experience than myself and you want to share the knowledge, add some other very practical tips, also leave the comment in the comment section. If you like what you saw today, or maybe you happen to see my other videos, there's already quite a few, check them out. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Peace and coffee.